Originally, when I made my King's Dominion video, I had a plan. I would cover Busch Gardens Williamsburg next after doing my top 10 video, then talk about Thomastown and Six Flags, then I would complete my series of videos where I talked about my experiences, where I would talk about the other parks I went to because I didn't have enough material for a single video. But then my parents were like, hey, we're visiting people in Tennessee. Wanna go to Dollywood? Okay. And so now I have to push this video back so I can talk about my experience at Dollywood, although these two videos were made almost simultaneously. Seriously, I am writing this intro on the eve of our visit to Dollywood, and to prove it further, I'll just cut to a segment filmed at Dollywood.
I've talked about 5 parks for this series aside from the top 10 video, so let's talk about the other parks I've been to.
Let's start with the first park I've ever been to, the only indoor park I've ever been to, and the only park in this video that's not in California. When I first visited this park in 2001 and later in 2004, it was called Camp Snoopy. The park had a partnership with Knott's Berry Farm and later Cedar Fair for the Peanuts characters, which later ended, so the park briefly changed its name to the park at MOA before being changed to Nickelodeon Universe in 2008. I later revisited the park in 2013 and rode mainly the small rides. I do recall meeting Blue and Aang, but I don't have any photos at the moment of Aang at all, and my Blue photos are from either King's Dominion or the Nick Hotel. This just in, we just got a new letter from Jakari again?
Dear Zach, it has come to my attention that Wings Club did have attractions at a park in Italy called Rainbow Magic Land, which included a dark ride and replica of Althea. Unfortunately, the license with Rainbow is no more, and Magic Land no longer has these characters. And yes, I am well aware that Minnesota's Nickelodeon Universe does have a Fairly OddParents coaster, but 1, I forgot about it, and 2, I haven't been much into that show recently, and not just because of Witch Harbor. I realize that I've been talking for a bit, and so I'll leave and go fly somewhere to vent on my dislike of wands. Barry Fox out. P.S. If you're talking about Nickelodeon, why do you have the DVD on the 4Kids dub?
Enjoy this footage while it lasts, because it's the few times in this video where you'll actually see footage at these parks. Some have a little, but others have none. Anyway, let's move forward to the next park. We're going to be spending a lot of time in 2008 because it's the year I went to parks the most. First was the most southern park I've ever visited, SeaWorld San Diego. When we visited, there were barely any rides, especially not back then. In recent days, the park has definitely been expanding their portfolio of rides, especially coasters. And we all know why that happened. Remember when I mentioned that Thrill Rides book in my Thomas video? That had an expansive list of parks in the US but didn't have SeaWorld San Diego. The book came out in 2007 and Journey to Atlantis opened in 2004. They definitely didn't consider that to be a true coaster. In 2009, I returned to see the Sesame Street Bay of Play and met Elmo and Abby. For some reason, it really got me into Sesame Street and led me into researching the history of the show. Anyways, this next segment is brought to you by the letter D and the number 1955. In spring 2008, my grandparents paid us a visit and we decided to go on a trip to Disneyland with them on a school day.
Oops.
We went on various rides, but mainly the Disneyland Railroad, the Casey Jr. Circus Train, and the Submarine Voyage, which the previous year had finally reopened with a Finding Nemo theme. As far as I can recall, my grandpa rode the railroad many times that day as he was a big rail fanatic. I didn't ride any dark rides or motion simulators, unless Nemo counts as a dark ride, does it? And no coasters either. After looking at the website, I really wanted to visit Toontown and it was okay. I did meet a few characters, mainly Chip and Dale. We also watched a parade. I also got one of the mouse ear hats, and I even have mine to this day. My visit to Disneyland Park in 2008 was the only time I went to that park, only as I was doing park hoppers on the other 2 visits. In 2012, literally the only things we did were ride the monorail 1.5 times. And in 2013, I did ride Nemo again because it was either that or Matterhorn. But that's only half my story with the Disney parks. We also have... And now for the park I've been to the most, having been to on 4 occasions. The first occasion was on a day after our visit to Disneyland Park and was pretty much our only visit to DCA 1.0 aside from Toy Story being under construction. The park was yet to undergo the huge changes. Sunshine Plaza was still there, so was Golden Dreams and Bountiful Valley Farm. We also saw the Aladdin show. I didn't understand what was going on. I hadn't seen the movie at the time.
I wouldn't watch the film until I got the film on VHS in 2015.
We also saw the Pixar parade. Jeez, why is DCA obsessed with Pixar?
I don't know. Even then, Disneyland Park also does have both Finding Nemo and Buzz Lightyear, so it isn't all California Adventure.
In 2009, I found out about Cars Land coming in 2012 and the other new attractions coming. I also saw the new Sun on California Screamin'. I spent a decent amount of time in the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail during its Brother Bear phase, and the only ride I rode was Toy Story Midway Mania.
I totally forgot, we also did the bread thing.
In 2012, I rode lots of rides. I got in Toy Story Mania, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and even Luigi's Flying Tires all twice, in addition to Monsters Inc., Little Mermaid, and others at least once. We ended the day by watching World of Color. In 2013, I was there for the one and only time I did summer camp, and somehow convinced the entire group to ride Monsters Inc., and the line was much longer than it was last time. We also saw the Pixar Zoetrope.
If Tide Tasmanian Tiger can get a Zoetrope, anyone can.
We also did It's Tough to Be a Bug, which freaked me out a little.
This is the part of the script where I stopped writing on the eve of our Dollywood visit.
This small family park is located between Knott's and Disneyland. I was told they had Thomas stuff there, and that was mainly just a play area with wooden railway toys. They had a neat miniature train, a petting zoo, and various kids rides. They also used to have a Wild Mouse coaster called Treetop Racers, but they removed that in 2012 and replaced it in 2015 with a Gerstlauer family shuttle coaster named Rewind Racers. I'm honestly surprised America got a Gerstlauer family boomerang almost a decade before they got a Vekoma. Space is very limited, so they likely won't be adding anything new anytime soon, so we're definitely not seeing any Gravity Group Woodies or family inverts. Besides, that will bring in older crowds, and the park wants this to be a safe place for families. They already have a rule that you need a kid in order to enter. The very second Cedar Fair park I ever visited was Knott's Berry Farm, first visiting it in 2008. We rode a few rides in Camp Snoopy and elsewhere, mainly the Kiddie Coaster Timberline Twister, and besides that we also saw the Snoopy Show. Both in 2008 and 2009 we went around Thanksgiving, and Knott's Berry Farm was in full swing. Hot take, but I definitely prefer this over Knott's Scary Farm.
I prefer Christmas over Halloween, as I'm not into the whole scary stuff.
Although I can't really judge it because I've never been during Halloween. We also rode the Calico Mine Ride, a classic dark ride, and in 2009, I was pretty much forced to ride the Timber Mountain Log Ride. And it's the only log ride I've ever ridden, although this is still being ridden on the morning of our visit to Dollywood.
Update, we didn't ride the log flume.
In 2016, we rode the Dragon Swing and the Flying Scooters. I was worn out by the Flying Scooters at Knott's and didn't ride the Flying Scooters of Michigan's Adventure. We rode the Camp Snoopy train and the Balloon Ride, and possibly a few others. And later in the day, an act of giving occurred.
These people come to us and are like, we accidentally ordered too many fries. Want some? It was amazing.
When it comes to the three Cedar Fair parks I've been to, I can't decide which one's better, Knott's or King's Dominion. I can't really judge them by their coasters since I've only ridden their kiddie coasters, so I'll just go with...
I don't know. Michigan's Adventure is third, in case you're wondering.
Finally, we're done with the parks I first went to in 2008, and now we're doing the park I first went to on January 1st, 2009. Pacific Park on the Santa Monica Pier. It's the only boardwalk park I've ever been to, and it's also home to one of the largest coasters I've ever ridden, West Coaster. I also rode the Drop Tower and a few of the smaller rides. I don't know what else to say. And finally, Legoland California in Carlsbad. I enjoyed the scenery, the cars, the rides, and the Lego decorations. For some reason at the gift shop, I only got a Duplo set because it was easier to build. At least in 2023, I built a 1,000 plus piece Friends set.
Friends as in the TV series. Sorry if this is a little anticlimactic. I didn't have much to say about Legoland, hence why the video is multiple parks instead of one, because I didn't have enough to say about each park. That's pretty much all the parks I've been to up to this point, excluding water parks, which I have little to say except for this little clip.
I'm hoping and praying for a brighter day.
As for future content, I might continue to talk about theme parks with other content. Like, for instance, talk about all the launch coasters at various parks, or maybe a bunch of other things. But as for videos about parks, I'm pretty much done. There is other things I could do. For instance, I could show off more of my media collection, like that segment I did on my Busch Gardens video, where I actually turned Zach Talks Media into a full series. I might try Q&A too, but I might have to ask the questions myself if I don't get enough questions. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. Now, we might be going to another park this summer, but I'll have to wait till later to say what it is, because nothing's been finalized yet. So anyway, this is the end of the video. I decided to have the credits scroll amongst my images, and I would like to formally apologize for singing the Code Lyoko theme in the Dollywood video instead of something from VeggieTales, because that would make more sense. The only reason why I did Code Lyoko is because it just turned out that the day we went to Dollywood was the 20th anniversary of Cartoon Network's debut of the show.